One story about Lincoln's time living here at the cottage that gives me great joy is a story about him rescuing a flock of peacocks alongside his friend, War Secretary Edwin Stanton, who also spent summers living here on the grounds of the soldiers' home. In a funny way, I think this story highlights some of Lincoln's best qualities, both as a man and as a leader. Lincoln's son Tad and the Stanton boys raised a flock of peacocks on these grounds, and the boys grew frustrated that the birds kept flying away. So the soldiers on guard tied small blocks of wood to the birds' feet to prevent escape. And one evening, Lincoln and Stanton returned home to find the birds tangled in some cedar trees beside the cottage. Lewis Stanton, the secretary's son, later wrote, "The two men immediately went to work, solemnly going to and fro, unwinding the ropes and getting them in straight lines, carefully placing the small pieces of wood where without catching they would slide off in the morning when the birds flew down." Here are some of the reasons that I find this story both intimate and revealing. First, it shows how Lincoln was able to be ordinary here. He did a dad thing without calling in the guard, literally, or asking a servant to do it. He saw suffering and he rolled up his sleeves and took action. He was humble enough to solemnly do a task that was, in a way, pretty ridiculous. We love Lincoln for his humility, even in his wildly powerful position. Of course, it's also a story about kindness and mercy. Lincoln's famous empathy extended to animals, and he had a lot of pets here at the cottage, including two very rambunctious goats. I think you can tell a lot about a person by the way that they treat animals, and Lincoln really loved them. I also like this story because it highlights the remarkable friendship between Lincoln and Stanton. Lincoln sought out all sorts of perspectives here at the cottage, those of friends and foes alike, and he grew close to Stanton, a man whom others found difficult, and with whom Lincoln initially didn't get along. Turning enemies to friends is a valuable leadership quality, and one that Lincoln really excelled at. He didn't hold on to grudges, and he was able to see value even in people who maligned him. And I also think we glimpse Lincoln and Stanton as doting fathers in this story. Tad, in particular, likely welcomed distractions like a flock of peacocks, having just lost his beloved brother Willie. But the fact that Lewis Stanton recorded this story shows us that it meant something to him too. The family dynamic helped forge the friendship between the two men during their summers here at the cottage. They even became close to one another's children. And of course, this partnership between Lincoln and Stanton became incredibly important to the outcome of the war and to the fate of the Union. So this is one of those micro moments in the history of this place that I love, because while it wasn't significant enough to make national news, it certainly displays Lincoln's humanity in full.